Mikey here. I'm going to do a short video today on how to build a 5-piece door, a flat panel door. I have a client that requested a sample to show him how we make the doors that we're going to be using in his kitchen. He wanted a 5-piece door, a flat panel door. So I'm taking this opportunity while I'm making this sample door for him to show you the steps through which we go to manufacture our cabinet doors. Now I have literally hundreds and hundreds of styles of doors I've done through the years. All right, this in today's current trends is one of the most popular styles, a flat panel door. This particular one has a bead on it, which is what he's looking for. Some people don't want the bead, they just want the square edge, which is a true shaker style door. So at any rate, this door is assembled using a method called stick and cope. Stick and cope is the joinery that we use to join the rails and the stiles together. And it's got a dado all the way around for this panel to fit into the dado, so it's captive. In other words, it's held inside the frame. It's not removable. Okay? So yeah, that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to walk you through the steps of what I do here in my shop. The only thing that I won't be able to show you today, I normally cut my stiles and rails to length on my sliding table saw, and I also square up the door after it's completely assembled using my slider. I'm in the middle of quite a bit of disruption here in my shop. We're installing sprinklers. I've done a lot of lower levels in here. I'm putting in mezzanines for a second story. I've got about 4,000 square feet on the ground floor. I've added about 2,500 square feet on upper levels, and we're right now installing sprinklers. We have sprinklers up at the ceiling because we have wood rafters, fire sprinklers, but we've just finished now installing all the fire sprinklers on the lower levels. So I had to really knock things down around so that the company that came in and installed it could get through here with a scissor lift. So for that reason, I had knocked down my sliding table saw, which right now is basically, you can see I'm putting in a ton of new lighting in here, by the way. I only had 6 metal halide lights on the ceiling in here. So a lot of my videos taken in the evening or cloudy days or whatever, we're kind of dark in here. Today is a kind of a bright day. I have no lights on at all in here. Well, there is a couple LED lights in there, but other than that, my shop right now is daylight, coming through 6 skylights that I have up here. On cloudy days, it's not enough. So while the guys were in here and they had their scissor lift, I took advantage of it to install a bunch of more halide lights up top. And I'm also running in a front room up there. I've got about 30 LED lights that you can see in the box over here. And these are the fixtures. So yeah, this sliding table saw is being used as a workbench for all the lighting right now. But I'll show you how you can do this. You don't have a slider at home for the most part. Some shops might have a larger garage, or somebody working out of a small dedicated wood shop might have a smaller slider, or perhaps even a large one. But most people, I'm going to assume, watching this video do not have a sliding table saw. So I'll be able to do this in a manner that you would be able to do yourself at home. So at any rate, let's go ahead and let's move on, showing you how to make a 5-piece door. All right, let's go. All right. For this particular sample, I'm going to use poplar. Now, I buy my wood in the rough, which you can see here. This is the way it comes from the timber mills to my wholesale distributor, who brings in by the carload, which is a train carload or truckloads. And they basically sort them out and they send them through the kiln to kiln dry them, all right? So that's how I get it, but you can see it's pretty rough here. I don't know how good the camera is going to show this, all right? This green marking is just, they paint the ends. They put a paint on to slow down the moisture escape from the boards to prevent checking and cracking on the ends of the boards. When they're in the kiln, as they're drying, most of the moisture is being evaporated out through the end grain of the boards. And if it comes out too rapidly, it'll splitter and check and crack the ends of the boards, which might only be a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, and sometimes it might come all the way down 1 foot or more. So by applying this to the ends, that slows it down and that helps prevent the checking and maximizes their yield on the boards. So that's what that green paint you're seeing here, or dye or whatever. But yeah, this is a piece of poplar, all right? It's 4/4, which means right now it's about 1 1/8, maybe 1 1/16 or so. I'm only looking to get 7/8 out of it. So I'll be able to bring this down to 7/8 and still be clean, all right? And ultimately my door would be finished off at 13/16. I build the door at 7/8, but by the time I get done sending it through the wide belt sander, it'll come down to 13/16, which is my standard cabinet door, all right? Many times we're making heavier, thicker, 1 1/8, 1 1/4, depending on the style of the profiles on the edges of the panels and the doors, or sometimes we might go down to 3/4 or even less. And that all depends on the application of the door itself, how it's being applied, whether it's an inset door, an overlay, or whatever. In this case, I'm just leaving this door square edge. It's going to be made for an inset. In other words, it'll set inside the frame of the cabinet flush, and you'll see a light 1/16 inch gap around the perimeter of the door. So, yeah, so here we go. So, like I said, I get this in the rough. And I choose to get it in the rough because I don't want, if I can have them mill this, they can send it through a double-sided planer, which is essentially a machine that will flatten the top and bottom and come out a consistent thickness. It goes through and it gets cut top and bottom at the same time. All right. The problem with that is, if this board has a big bow to it or ripples, the planer doesn't, a two-sided planer will to a certain effect flatten out a board. But it won't do it completely. If there's an overall crown, a nice big bow to the, it's not going to take that out. And I can't have that, especially for my doors. So I prefer to get it in the rough and cut them closer to the size I need, send it across my joiner and face one side, which is actually flattening one side, and then I'll turn that over and I'll throw it through my planer and bring it down to the proper thickness. This will enable me to ensure that I've got a totally flat door, all right? Which I might not have if I were to have the mill sizing down to the size I want, the thickness that I want, all right? So, yeah, so here we go. My first step is going to take this piece of wood. I already have, I've got the size of my door. I want to make a door that's going to be 11 inches wide by 17 3/16 high. So that means my stiles and rails, I can use simple math to arrive at the size of these. I know my stiles will be the height of the door. If I need a door 17 3/16, my stiles will be cut to 17 3/16. Now, I'm actually making these oversized. I really want a door that's going to be 17 inches high, but I don't want to start at exactly 17, because if I need to cut the door and to square it up after it's built, it'll come up too short. So that's why I'm making 17 3/16. As for the width, the door is going to be 11 inches. So what I normally do, my stiles are always the height of the door, and the rails are going to be 4 1/8 inch smaller than the overall width of the door. That's because I want my rails and stiles to be 2.5 inches wide. All right. So the reason I'm going to rip them at this width, and this has already been ripped to 5.5 inches, a little bit over. I'm going to do my stick and cope while the rail is in one piece, the two rails are in one piece, and while the stiles are in one piece. After I do my stick and cope with my shapers, then I'm going to rip them in half and cut them rip them to the exact 2.5 inches that I require. All right. So at any rate, my stiles, like I said, are the height of the door, and my rails are always cut at 4 1/8 inches less than the width of the door. The way that happens is my stick and cope is assuming that I'm going to have a tenon on my doors that is 7/16 of an inch long. All right, that's a tenon that goes that's cut on the end of the rails and goes into the stiles. All right, so if I got 7/16 on each side, that adds up to 7/8. All right, so I have to subtract. I've got a 2.5 inch and a 2.5 inch stile. That's 5 inches. I want to subtract 7/8 from that because that's how far the tenon goes in. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut right now a rough piece equal to the height of my stiles and the width of my rails. All right. So I need 17 3/16 stile. So I'm going to come in a couple of inches here, assuming that when I trim this out, I might find some checking on the end here that I can't see while it's in a rough form. And I'm going to 17 and 3/16, so I'm going to say I want an 18-inch piece here. And my rails, that's my stiles, my rails want to be 7 inches, so I'm going to cut them roughly at 8 inches. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this off in one piece here, and I'm going to flatten them out on the joiner and then send them through the planer, and then I'll cut them to my exact sizes. So that's what we do. We figure out the rough sizes. I don't normally joint an entire plank on the joiner. I'll mark out the length of my stiles and rails, and then I'll cut them either to a rough size, or I'll combine a few smaller pieces, which is mostly the rails. They're shorter. I don't want to be sending an 8-inch piece through my planer. That's too short. It'll go through. I can send something as small as 5 1/8 through my planer, but I prefer not to because it will jump and I might get a little snipe. So I try to keep my pieces at least 1.5 foot to 2 foot long when I'm running them through the planer minimum. So where the 18-inch stiles, that's close enough to run in one piece. A 7-inch rail is 2 inch short. A 7-inch rail is too short to run through there. So I'll leave it and I'll cut the whole thing in one piece. And if I have a bunch of doors, I'll do the same thing. I might combine a bunch of 5, 6, 7-inch pieces together, send them through, and then cut them shorter after. All right. So here we go. We're going to move over to the, well, first we're going to go to the radial arm saw, and we're going to cut this to length. So right now my slider is knocked down, so I'm going to use the radial arm. This sometimes is a little bit not as accurate as I would like. The slider is perfectly, I mean, you can't get more precise than of a cut as far as being square, both ways, up and sideways. This way I know I'm perfectly square, and this way, all right? My toe in and toe out and cast and camber on the slider are dead balls on. Here it might be a little bit off, but right now I'm just rough cutting this, so that really doesn't matter. So you can see I'll check the cut off piece here, and I'll make sure I don't see any checking or splitting or cracking. Okay? So that lets me know that the end of the board that came, the way it came from the mill, doesn't have any defects that might give me a problem down the road where I cut these the exact size. Okay, now if this piece is big enough, there's my two stiles, and this will be my two rails. So let's go over now to the joiner. We're going to flatten this out, then we're going to send it through the planer, and then we're going to do our sticking coat. Okay, I'm over at my 12-inch joiner now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to flatten one side of here to make sure it's perfectly flat, all right? So it doesn't, right now you can see, I don't know if you can see it in this video or not, this has got a little bit of a twist to it. It's rocking, all right? And that's what we want to take out of here. We don't want it to rock and roll like this, all right? So, and by the way, if you're doing it if you're doing these operations at home, for clarity, how's that word? For clarity of the video, as far as me being able to see the camera, make sure I'm in the range of the camera, and to be able to hear what I'm saying and hear in my machines, and not to be encumbered by mess. I'm not using safety equipment like I should. If you're doing this home, if you're performing these operations on machinery at home or in your shop or whatever, make sure you wear the proper eye protection, respiration, a mask for your nose, and hearing protection. I'm not doing that, but I want you to follow those rules always, always. Don't do what I do what I say, all right? So here we go. We're going to turn on the dust collector. And now we're going to turn on the joiner. Alright, I've got that pretty flat now. No more rocking and rolling. going to send this to the planer, which is going to flatten the other side and give me a consistent thickness. And right now, this looks to be just a little over 7/8. I'm going to set the planer for 13/16. I'm going to set the planer for 13/16, and we're going to run it through there. Before I turn the machine on, I'll explain what I'm doing, because you won't be able to hear me once I turn this machine on or the dust collector. All right. This is a 24-inch wide planer. It's got a cutting head on here that's about 6 inches in diameter, and it has 4 blades on it. So when I turn this on, it's going to be horrendously loud. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my dust collector on. I'll turn this on. I'll raise the platform of the bed up to the thickness that I want this to be, which will be 13/16, and I should be able to set it through in one pass. All right. So that's what you're going to see me doing. First, I'm going to raise the bed, which I need the power on to do that. Back at the radial arm saw, and like I said, normally I would cut all these cuts for my stiles and rails on my slider. This will ensure that my doors are going to be perfectly square and flat, but like I said, my slider is not set up right now. It's broke down. So what I'm going to do, this is just a sample door so he can see the style of the door. It's not necessary for it to be perfectly square at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the saw on right now, and I'm going to cut these to the exact sizes I need. Okay, we've got, this is our top and bottom rail, and this will be our left and right stiles, all right? What I'm going to do now is, I still have the rough milling on here. I already had one rip cut. I'm going to go back to the table saw, and I'm going to rip so that I'm clean on both sides. Okay, I'm over to the table saw. Now, like I said, I still have the rough milling marks on one side of this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it through the table saw now, bring it down to 5.5 inches. Before I turn the blade on, I am going to get my blade to the proper height, which is about 1/8 of an inch or so above the thickness of the wood. I do that before I turn the blade on. I state the reasons why, and a lot of other safety reasons in a video I had put up earlier. If you want to look back on my videos, I have one out there about safety, which again includes, bear in mind, I'm not wearing any proper safety gear in this video and most of my videos. But I urge you to ensure that you wear eye protection, hearing protection, and eyes, ears, nose. Respiration. In fact, I'll put my goggles on. I am going to put some glasses on, and for the simple reason, how's that, all right? Whenever I'm ripping a rough edge here, there could be splinters, and they can be thrown back, and I mean, it'll hurt parts of my face if it hits it, or my body, my arms, or whatever, but I don't want them in my eyes. So at any rate, I've got the height of the blade set. Now I need 5.5 inches, So I'm going to start a little bit wider, 5 9/16, and I'm going to turn around and re-rip it. I always keep my protective glasses in a Ziploc bag to keep it dust-free and all. It sustains the life of them. It extends the life of them considerably. All right, so what I've got now normally I would have run this across the joiner to flatten one side, to straighten out one side. I didn't need to join it because I had already done that prior to this video. When I ripped this was a plank that was about that wide. So when I ripped them, I had already run one side through the joiner, and that's the side that went against the fence here, the side that was against the fence on my radial arm saw. Okay, so we're set now. Now we want to go do the stick and the cope. All right. The cope is the profile that I'm going to put on the ends of here, which is going to give me a bead with a tenon, and the sticking is the same profile. The female. This is going to be the male version of the joint. It's going to be the sticking is the female version. That's going to go on the sides of the stiles. So let's move now over to the shapers. Okay, I've just been editing, and it looks like we're already over 20 minutes in this video already. So I'm going to stop it here, and I'm going to make part 2 for tomorrow, all right? So, yeah, tomorrow what we'll do, we'll go on the shapers, and we'll do the stick and the cope on the stiles and the rails, and then we'll come back to the table saw. We'll rip the stiles and rails to the exact width. We'll make up the panel. We'll get everything sanded, and then we'll put the door together. So that will be part 2. Yeah, tomorrow, Monday, which is it's 2 days before the final presidential debate, which I'm looking forward to seeing. All right. Yeah, I got to do something for a little bit of enjoyment. I enjoy watching that debate going on. You can see all the crap that's happening with that. And yeah, looking at the clock, it looks like I've probably 5:30. I've missed most of the Giants-Ravens game, which was today. And but I recorded it, and don't tell me what happened. Well, you can't tell me anyway. You can, by the time you see this, the game will be over, right? But I don't even have the radio going because I want to see it as if I'm seeing it live. So, at any rate, yeah. Thanks a lot for watching part 1 of how to make a flat panel door. Tomorrow I'll upload part 2. If you like what you've seen today, or if you don't like it, whichever, rate, comment, and subscribe. All right. I can see my subscriber list is growing. I'm 900 some, maybe 960 or so subscribers. I would love to be able to hit 1,000 before the end of the year, which is only a couple months away. So please subscribe, all right? If nothing else, help my numbers get there, all right? It's just a matter of pride, all right? Hoping you like what I do, and I'm trying to hit that goal of 1,000 subscribers, all right? So, yeah, rate, comment, and subscribe, good or bad, all right? And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow with part 2, how to make a flat panel door. Bye all.